Hey there, I'm Mealtime Mentor Casey, and today I'm here with Gerald of Kohler Original Recipe Chocolates. This video is part of our Sips and Snacks video series where we pair tasty food with delicious drinks. So today Gerald's going to walk us through a wine pairing with some of Kohler's chocolates. But before we get to that, Gerald, I would love it if you could tell us a little bit more about the history of Kohler Chocolates.
Absolutely. So one of the first questions I ask someone when I'm talking to them about Kohler Chocolates is, have you ever heard of Kohler Company? You'd be amazed at how many times people say no, they haven't. And it's not until I make a comment along the lines of, you've probably used our product at some point in your life, might even be in your home, thinking of a kitchen and bath fixture of sorts, where all of a sudden the light bulb will literally go on above their head. And, oh yeah, that Kohler Company.
Yeah.
Well, it happens to be the same company. And so then you get a look of confusion and saying, well, why do you have anything to do with chocolates?
Sure.
Which is a logical question. And the answer is simple. Herb Kohler happens to love chocolates. He has a passion for hospitality. And he wanted to find the world's best turtle. When he couldn't find that, he challenged the chefs at the American Club to create it, and 100 recipe variations later, we landed on what we call the original buttery terrapin. It's our signature piece.
That's really great, and I'm really excited to try a version of that today with the cranberry terrapin. So we, Mealtime Mentors, got a chance to visit the Kohler Chocolates facilities, and we were just blown away by not only how much work you guys produce in such a small space, but also just the passion and the pride that everybody takes in the chocolates. They're clearly works of art, so that was so impressive to us.
Yeah, all of our pieces are 100% handmade. You got a chance to see that, and
yes,
it's easy to forget when you're biting into that piece of chocolate what actually goes into it. Not even forget, but you just don't even think of it. If you've never seen it before, it's really difficult to put into perspective, you know, all the different steps and pieces that go into making these chocolates.
Yes, handmade is completely handmade.
Absolutely.
Very impressive. All right, so let's get to our pairing. So we've got a few different types of wines today, and you were kind of talking about playing around with different pairings at home and kind of how this works. So we're starting with a white wine. Today we have a Chardonnay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you know, to go off the comment that you just made about, you know, playing with the different pairings, unfortunately, it's a difficult part of my job where we have to do that in order to come up with this. Yeah, I know.
What a bummer.
It's tough. But, you know, you don't really know until you try it. And the reason why you have to do that is because you might think that something on paper sounds great together.
Sure.
But when you bite into it and you try it, you find that it might not always work the way that you expect it to. And so the truth is there's really no science to these pairings. It's just 100% matter or a matter of preference. And so I would encourage you to do the same thing at home, whether it's with a family member or guest or friend or whatever it is that you're doing, to try different pairings. And that's part of the experience that we like to create. We call them creating extraordinary moments. And so it's a lot of fun to just bite into the chocolate and then enjoy the wine together. You can do it with wine, spirits, beers, cocktails. Doesn't really make a bit of difference. It's just a matter of what you enjoy. But the idea is that they complement each other very well, and it creates that experience where you're getting the best of both worlds in that.
Definitely.
So we'll start out with a Chardonnay, and we've chosen to pair our Crème Fraiche Garden Ganache with this. And so what's really nice about this is the creaminess, the decadence of the Garden Ganache goes really well with like a nice buttery Chardonnay. You know, again, when you bite into it. So there's a little bit of a trick to the pairing because you want your palate to get the full experience of it.
Sure.
So what you want to do is take a small bite of the chocolate, and as you're letting the chocolate kind of break down and melt in your mouth, again, let it cover your entire palate. People might look at you kind of funny when you're doing it, but when they see how much you're enjoying it, they're going to be inspired to want to do the same thing. And then take a drink of the wine. And again, don't just drink the wine and swallow it right away, but let it cover your palate, and you'll start to notice how they complement each other. And then once you're doing that, then take another bite of the chocolate, and that's where it'll start to complete that experience. And the more that you're biting into the chocolate and taking drinks of the wine, and that's what makes it so fun is, you know, all of a sudden you've taken what might have been a simple piece of chocolate and a glass of wine, and you're creating a dessert that is this wonderful experience that you can, you know, have with somebody else, whether it's a significant other or what have you. And people around a table, conversation gets going, and it really helps to set the tone of what you're doing.
And it totally elevates the experience of both the wine and the chocolate.
Absolutely.
All right, so for our next wine, we have a rosé. So what are we pairing with that?
So we chose our Cranberry Terrapin for this one. The difference between our Cranberry Terrapin and the original buttery terrapin that I was talking about, which is our signature piece, is the buttery terrapin is a burnt smoky caramel with milk chocolate and a pecan. This is a lighter caramel that we use peanuts and cranberries with, and then we use white chocolate instead. And so what that does is it just changes the tone, the taste of the product, so it's a little bit more fruity. It's going to have kind of a citrus taste to it, and then we find that just goes really well with the rosé.
Oh yeah, that totally like enhances all of those flavors.
Absolutely.
Oh, I really like that terrapin. All right, so for our last pairing then, we have a red. Today we have a Cabernet Sauvignon. So what are we pairing with that?
So this is probably one of my favorite pairings. So whether you use a Cabernet or I've actually used a Pinot Noir for this as well, but for the sake of this pairing, it's a Raspberry Garden Ganache, and so it's going to be really flavor forward. When you bite into the Raspberry Garden Ganache, you're going to get a lot of that raspberry flavor to it. Something that is really nice about these is the shell is very thin, and we want the ganache to be the hero of it. But then the raspberry flavor of the Garden Ganache really pulls out that fruit flavor from the wine that you're getting for that. You don't want to use a really sweet wine for this, and that's why we use the Cabernet or a Pinot Noir, because the Raspberry Garden Ganache is going to be relatively sweet on its own, and so the dryness of the Cabernet or the red is really going to tone that down. They're going to blend and marry very well together.
Yes, I think that one was my favorite. You're right, that's such a good pairing. Really makes both of the flavors stand out really well.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Gerald. Find these chocolates at our stores and try your own pairings at home. Cheers.
Cheers.